weekend.
We're back.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do like the whole
song. I'm the total star now of the show, so I'm just not even paying attention. Don't even care.
All right. So welcome. We'll pretend that whole first part didn't happen, and welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. I was one day older, and now I'm way older than that.
Yeah. Time is relative, and relative to where we started today, we're both ancient.
When the last time we tried to do the show, I was a little girl, just like you. And look at me now.
So anyway, yeah, birthday this week. It was yesterday. So again, happy yesterday birthday.
Thank you.
You were talking about...
Well, I was talking about how I got a bunch of games to play. That was really my point. I got sidetracked by all the cool shit I got, but it was like, I got Everybody's Golf, Sonic Mania, and Dragon Quest VIII.
You left Everybody's Golf out last time. I'm so jealous now. I want that so bad.
Well, the show started falling apart before I could list them all off. Yeah, I was really tired yesterday after I went out to dinner and all that stuff. So I fell asleep pretty quick. I didn't get a chance to really play any of that stuff, except a little bit of Sonic Mania. But my brother played some Everybody's Golf, and he said it was pretty fun. I think that's why he got it. It's one of those a great gift for me to play.
Right. I don't blame him one bit. I would do the same thing.
That's a cool thing about sharing a collection with somebody is when their birthday rolls around, you get shit that you're going to totally use.
Yeah. And you're neither of you are assholes about it. Oh, you have no interest in this game, but I'm going to pretend this is for you.
Yeah, he'll never... he'll never give me some fucking bullshit fucking Genesis collection.
3, yeah.
Because the Genesis was bullshit, and I'll fucking die. I'll go to my death yelling that. But anyway, yeah, I got all these games to play, but for the last I want to say 26 hours, I've just been obsessed with the city's Skylines is on sale on the Humble store right now for $8, and it's only going to be on sale for that for about 18 more hours or something. And I am just obsessed with that fucking game, but I have no connection. I have no history with SimCity beyond I played it a little bit when I was really young, and I was it's kind of boring. Definitely not the type of game a kid, a child Ben would be interested in at all. It's a game I might be interested in now, but it's just this absurd, there's at best a 50-50 shot that the game ends up appealing to me. And more than likely, it'll probably just end up as one of the many games on my Steam list that I'm just never going to play. It's one of those games you touch for 10 minutes and then you're just yeah, whatever. And it just sits there on your hard drive forever.
Right.
But I can't get it out of my fucking head because it all falls back to, but it's $8. Yeah, you have all this stuff, but
I know. And I'm kind of mad that
you could really get into it. And then it's $8.
It's one of those games. And I'm a sucker for those town building, and when I say sucker for them, I mean your literal definition of sucker. Hey, this one's on sale and it looks fun, and I'll play it once. Most of those games I've launched once, but every time a new one comes out, and Cities has been on my wish list on Steam forever. I don't know if it's even on my wish list, but you always see it because that's one that they feature. I think it is
because I remember thinking wow, everybody on my friends list wants this game, but nobody's bought it.
Right. So, and it's just, it's like you say, you can't justify. And then when you say $8, it's son of a bitch.
It's fucking $8, man. It's so fucking weird how I have these random fits of and it's XCOM that fucked me up. Because XCOM was one of those games where it's I probably won't get into it, but I'll give it a shot. And then I loved it. and now I'm just like constantly like
You're paranoid you're
what,
missing out. Yeah.
yeah, like what gems in other genres I completely ignored did I like miss? Like Stardew Valley is another one where it's like I don't give a fuck about farm building until it's amazing, and then like you're all over it.
Right. Which I think you would have loved Animal Crossing had you played it first. I think compared to Stardew Valley,
You'll seem probably
there's
limited.
just less to do. Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
not that it makes it bad, but I think if you've never played Animal Crossing and then play it after that, you might be a little.
Yeah.
But
Did you hear about the next game they're making? The
yeah,
Stardew Valley?
it's like a
It's
magic
like a Harry
wizard
Potter
school. Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah. Which would not sound cool from anyone else.
Right.
But from Stardew Valley guys, like that's like hell yeah. I'm totally interested in like because Stardew Valley as a premise does not like on paper it does not interest me at all, and then like playing it, it's like wow, this is actually the best shit. But so I'm constantly because of games like that though, I'm constantly trying to find more like gems and genres that I just never play. And City Skylines is supposed to be like for the people who like those types of games, they're like, yeah, it's really good. It's at least better than what EA's last did with Sim City, which pissed a lot of people off from what I've gathered.
Yeah, and that was hard to kind of pick apart how much of it was valid like criticism of the game, and a lot of it was that what we were talking about with Sonic Mania, it was their like always on DRM that pissed people off.
It was always online, but it was also
the servers didn't work when it launched, so you couldn't play your single player game.
It was fucking broken, and like it was just a very limited game from what I gather. Like the appeal of like a city builder to me would be like all the shit you can like fuck around with and make your city really unique. And that game just sort of like you could have multiple cities on an area, but they were all the same like layout. Like it was all a big rectangle on land, and like that type of shit.
Not what SimCity's been doing ever since it was like invented. So then
yeah, and it relied a lot on like, yeah, you're limited in this way, but you can have like your friends, like you can all work together to build great cities. And it's like, well, the requirement is my friends have to be having fun with the game, and then they would want to keep playing with me. But since they don't like the game you made, none of my friends are playing, so we can't work together.
Even if you liked the game, the multiplayer aspect seemed... Now, I could be wrong. Maybe I was missing because I never dug deep into the game and I never played it. But it's like, oh, their cities can link up, so then there's like commerce and stuff between them. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like that's neat, but like you said, that's not going to be the draw. You need to have a good game, and then that would be a cool little like.
And then people want to play it together,
right?
Yeah, and that's what hell, we saw that I think with the first Destiny, where a lot of people were like kind of falling off that because they didn't think the game was that engaging. So it's like, yeah, you can play all these like it kind of that game and that series found its footing after a couple of DLCs. But people are like, yeah, you could do these missions with friends and it would make it better, but you still have to play what's essentially a pretty mindless shooter. So that was what I've heard is the big sort of issues with SimCity. And so like, but then like you start hearing about like people's like fond memories of like various city building games. And I'm like, that sounds actually pretty cool. Yeah. And Cities is like the newest one of those that kind of gives you, a little bit of flexibility but isn't so like dense that it like seems impenetrable.
Yeah, and that's the problem the genre tends to have. There was one that I had talked about on the show a while ago, and I'll never... Oh, Banished. Give myself some credit. I was about to say I'll never remember the name, and then bam, it's Banished. And it's not like the modern city builder like Cities or SimCity, but it's the town, it's the city builder genre, and it's awesome. I love the game, and it has some humor to it, but it is like micromanaged fucking everything.
Yeah.
And they're just... That's why I tend to buy them and think these are cool. And then I play them, and I like them when I play them, but they're just so off-putting because it's like, if I want to really dig into this, like, goodbye rest of my life for the next month.
Yeah, and that doesn't sound so bad to me. No, fucking around. But it is one of those things. Like, it really will be a real test. Like, $8 shouldn't be a test because I have the money for it. It's not like I'm, like that'll fucking break the bank and I won't be able to pay my bills or something. Like, it should be fine. It's just I'm trying to not.
It's about
everything there's a sale.
Yeah, and it's about more than the money because it's like you just got 3 games for your birthday, and that's kind of like where I'm always at. Where you say I didn't know it was on sale. I never pay attention to Humble. I should, because there's awesome sales there all the damn time.
Yeah, I didn't, and here's the asterisk on all this, like this willpower I'm trying to show against cities is the only reason I know is because I bought their Capcom Atlas Humble Bundle, which has games I already own, but I wanted them on Steam.
Yeah.
So I didn't just like pay the minimum. I bought the full fucking $12 because they had Devil May Cry 4 Special Edition on there for $12. And that game is like $20 or $30 on its own. So in my head, my fucked up head, even though I already own that game on the PS4, I'm like, well, I could get that, and that's $12. Then that's not just going to Devil May Cry 4. That goes to Sonic Generations and a second copy of Resident Evil 4. Isn't that great? Now I have 2 copies of that game on Steam alone. So
yeah,
it's just and then I was like, well, I should see the store, because you get that Humble Bundle, they give you a bunch of coupons for shit that doesn't apply to any of the stuff you'll actually want. Like they have a really fucked up coupon for spending the full 12, where it's like, we'll take 50% off like any card that has, Capcom or Atlas or any of these companies and like any of these games in the cart, except like games released after like July 1st or something. So you can't get Bayonetta, you can't get like Vanquish or any of that shit. Like, no. So it's like, well, what are these good for then? And then I'm like looking back at other like Capcom games, and they're all fucking on sale, and the coupon doesn't apply to games already on sale. Yeah. So it's like, well, thanks for this coupon that will never get used.
Yeah, it's like the free salad with any like 3 large pizza purchases. It's like, if you're buying 3
that doesn't apply to salads on the menu.
Right.
So,
but yeah, I mean, and that stuff. All you say cities is $8. It's like, shit, that's tempting for me too. It's been on my wish list forever. But
yeah,
Tooth and Tail came out yesterday, and I'm really interested in that. The last tree or the first tree, something tree with a fox that runs around.
There's a tree.
A tree and a fox, and it looks fantastic. That came out today. There was something I just saw on early access that I've never heard of, but it looked neat, so I put it on my wish list. And then I just bought like 3 games. And so that it's more than just money. It's also like the stuff comes on sale and it's like, ooh, a shiny thing. And it's like, I have no business buying anything. Whether or not I can afford it, I can't play it because I'm playing other stuff. But man, it's so hard sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really just like, like it's really going to be a photo finish to see if I can hold off. Like,
I will say what's always, every now and then I get like that like feeling like, oh man, if I only like looked at how much money I've spent on Steam over the years, and you can pull that up, and every time I see my numbers, I'm like, oh, that's not really bad. I mean,
considering I have hundreds of games,
right? Like, I mean, I maybe spend 100 or 200 a year on Steam, which is a lot of money, but if compared to my other hobbies, that's nothing.
Yeah, it's actually pretty, like, ultimately in the long run, I'm saving a ton of money since I've gone like mostly PC gaming and mostly digital. Like that's been huge, right? Because you can get so many, even like brand new games are usually on some sale. Green Man
yeah, I was gonna say I tend to not buy them anymore at the full price. There's exception. Destiny 2, I'll guarantee. I mean, if I can find it for a couple bucks off, great. But
it is a couple bucks off on Green Man right now.
so I should buy it before it comes out.
It's like 14% off.
Yeah.
Or something, but I was thinking about snatching that up too, but I'm kind of like, that's still so far away that, and by far away, I mean
away. Oh, I'm just gonna break into.
Are we going fuel?
Yeah.
If we're going fuel, we can just sink this ship right now.
That's how my brain works. If I hear anything that's even remotely close to a song lyric, it's like, yep, music. And I'm not even a big music person. I mean,
clearly you just sang fuel.
That's the radio's fault. I don't listen. I didn't even know who it was.
Me and my friends probably play. There's Hemorrhage, and then they had another song. It sounded exactly the same, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, but it was that same like type fucking singing that.
Kind of like almost trying to be Eddie Vedder-ish, but not quite.
It was like there was a point where it seemed like every rock band sort of woke up one day and it was like, you know what, Rob Thomas isn't hard enough. He needs to growl even more, and then they all did that fucking voice. But yeah, me and my friends listen to those songs and laugh all the time. Forgot what we were talking about.
Steam
we got distracted by great
GOG. I'm Destiny 2. I'm in the same boat as you. Like at this point, unless something really changes as far as like gaming situation or whatever, like I'm 99% sure I'll be playing Destiny 2 on PC when it finally fucking launches. But
when it actually launches,
that's 6 weeks away, and I'm still in that boat where it's like, oh, cool, it's on a little, 14% sale. That's not even that little of a sale, but it's like, but it's too early. Like,
the more I think about that, like that delay is so fucked up.
Well, especially since they're like, oh, we're introducing
playing it right now.
I know, and then they're like, oh, we're introducing our next new world event. I'm like, the game's not even fucking out for me yet. Like, stop introducing new stuff. Oh, it sucks.
Like, they really kicked PC players in the dick.
They did. And then it would be one thing if it was like that beta came out and you're like, oh, this is rough, but it's like, oh my god, this is so good on PC.
Hey, this feels really good. And then like, well, we need another month.
And it's funny because I shouldn't complain because my MO is everything that I'm playing is old news by the time I play it anyway. I mean, that's me. But like, this is the one situation where it's bothering me.
Well, because like that's more of a game that's like there's actually a bit of responsibility to kind of keep current with it. It's it's MMO like in that regard.
Well, and the community aspect adds to it. Like right now, everybody's still buzzing about it. By the time we get to play it, there'll be like a little bit of a resurgence because of the PC release.
Like I feel like I probably would have latched onto the first Destiny a little bit harder if I started when everybody else had. The fact that like I came in and everybody was already level fucking
all everybody was doing was the Crucible stuff because that's all they had left at that point, and it's like, wow,
yeah. And so like and other people were playing when I did. Like I never had problems like finding like people in the various missions I did, but it was still just that feeling like this game seems a little barren now. Like people have already kind of did everything they're going to do and they're going to wait until the next DLC. But yeah, I want to grab that. I want to grab NBA 2K18, which I think for PC pre-orders, they get that tonight. I'm not sure when the actual like release date is though. They're doing some fucked up like pre-orders really get it first thing.
Yeah.
And I was actually going to grab it today because Green Man sent me an email saying like, hey, this is our game of the week. Just be signed in and you can get an extra 25% off. And all week I was like, okay, that sounds good. I have a week. They send it to me on Monday, and then like you go there now, you can't get it.
Yeah.
And there's no like notice about it or anything. They just had to respond in like the comments, like, yeah, we goofed and we weren't supposed to have it on that sale for a whole week. And it's like awesome. Like that. So now there's just this dumbass banner on their front page where it's like the game of the week at full price. And like,
whoops.
So yeah, that's an awesome promotion. But I get it, especially with sports games, those are always like fast sellers. Like they were just constantly like, we're out of keys, we got more keys, and when they're a seller like Green Man, like it's really like, yeah, we keep hounding the publisher to give us more, but they didn't expect us to sell this at a 25% discount for 4 days. So.
Right.
So that kind of sucked, but I know it'll be on another sale again like that before I know it. I hope, because I really don't want to pay full price for another. I just bought a fucking basketball game like 2 years ago.
That's the problem, and I've noticed even like nobody wants to buy a year-old sports game anyway, because that's just one of those things that I feel like if the newer version's out, I want it. Even though we've talked a lot about how most of the time there's very little quality of life improvement year over year. Like, shit, when I bought the last NHL one, it's not even current anymore. I think the new one's come out, or it's getting ready to come out. But the last NHL game I bought, it had been 5 years since I bought an EA Sports NHL game, and it was like playing the exact same fucking game. I mean, like, the little minutia is different, but it's not like there's... See, your dog's pissed about it too. But anyway, my point is, it's not like there's a life-shattering difference between each, like, just from year to year, but at the same time, I can't bring myself to buy the previous years if the new one's out. And EA is terrible about those things never fucking go on sale. Maybe once they're like 2 or 3 years old, then it's like, oh, well, sell you this now. But
yeah, like honestly, the selling point of this new NBA, well, it's twofold. From what I understand, the story, like the career mode, is not as story driven because they're doing like kind of the open world thing. They're calling it the neighborhood. Do
you get to go on quests and stuff?
I guess so. It sounds kind of dumb to me, honestly, because I just want to do a regular career mode with no narrative or any, like, I just want NBA career shit to happen to a very like blank avatar of just like, I want him to get injured. I want him to like have to work his way up. Like I want to have to get good at the game before the game is like, you're a star, which didn't, like in the NBA 2K16, it's already like, man, you're the best player in high school, and then you're the best player in college, and then you're on the bench for about 3 weeks, and then you just took out Derrick Rose for the starting job for the Chicago Bulls. And it's like, it feels very forced, and you have to watch these like obnoxious cutscenes over and over again. So to get rid of that, like even if it gets replaced by a dumb open world thing, I'm all for it. And who knows, maybe it's fun. But also, I just really want an NBA game where the Clippers uniforms aren't complete trash. Because they have the updated uniforms in, and while they're not great, they're way better than what the fuck they rocked like the last couple of years. Like, I fucking hated their uniforms so much, and like this one actually has a couple of decent options. So, and that's really it. That's the major reason I want it, is like I want to be able to play an NBA game where my favorite team's uniforms aren't fucking terrible.
Well, uniforms are the most important part of sports. Like, not just sports.
They kind of are to me. Like, I am constantly critiquing uniforms whenever I watch. Like, anytime me and my friends are hanging out watching sports, it's like, the Cubs have some great uniforms. I like the Indians in this, but like we were watching the World Series, but I never shut up about like the Cubs uniforms. Like I know way too much about uniforms. Like I just go to like, there are sports uniforms websites, and I go to them like real sports fans go to like stat sites. And it's like, did you see those stats Tom Brady put up? It's like, no, but did you see what New England used to wear? Yes.
Right. It's just a matter of time before you have a colored job in the booth, but
I hope so.
You'd be like the literal color guy, like our
NFL aesthetics analyst, Ben. What do you got for us?
Can't wait to watch you
Pittsburgh has some classics. A lot of people don't like the lack of symmetry on the helmet, but I think it's unique. I think it's bold. I hope they keep this uniform for 1,000 years. Back to you.
So, Ben, what do you think about the Browns uniforms being predominantly orange?
I think it's despicable. I think it's a disgrace to the game. If you're going to play like a dog turd, you should look like a dog turd.
Yeah. See, you're hired.
Yeah, I'm a natural. So yeah, I did play a little bit of Sonic Mania yesterday, just enough to know that it's fucking bullshit.
It feels to me. It feels exactly like the original Sonic Sega.
It feels a little, yeah. It feels pretty damn close. I would say, if anything, it feels just a little bit snappier, like a little more polished. Like if you go back and play the original Sonics, there's a little more clumsiness to it.
So I guess a better way to word it is it plays exactly how I remember, nostalgia, vision the originals playing.
Yeah, but if you play Sonic 1 now, you're going to be like, what the fuck? Why is it taking him forever to jump? And now Sonic fans will be like, it was perfect. It was about momentum. It's like, I know. But what pissed me off was that the bonus stages to get the Chaos Emeralds don't, if you fuck up those, they don't reset.
Nope.
And I was like, it wasn't a big deal because I was just sort of kicking the tires on it. I wasn't planning on starting a real playthrough, but I was curious, okay, can I not restart it if I can't restart it if I die or something, but can I restart it if I go back, restart the game and restart from that file? It still keeps you out of it. And I was like, that is horseshit. That's really fucking mean.
It's their theme from last week. Get good. Don't fail them.
Yeah.
Even though they're bullshit, mini challenges too. So.
Well, they fucking suck.
Yeah.
It's this weird, pseudo 3D thing they're going for. And Sonic just controls shit in there.
Yeah. You talk about it's snappier. Those aren't. Those are
no, those are fucking terrible.
It's basically the old Snake almost Dot Eater games, but it's very difficult to tell what column you're in when you turn or this or that. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they brought back the Sonic 3 bonus stages, and those are for more unlockables, concept art shit. From what I gather, more just here's stuff in the gallery type shit. So you don't have to do those. You technically don't have to do the Chaos Emerald ones either, but I want to. I want to get Supersonic. I want to be cool. Like all the other kids who played Sonic growing up. But I was doing these ones, and in order to complete them fully, you have to, it's this annoying fucking red dot, blue dot shit on the sphere you're running on. Mm-hmm. And these sucked in Sonic 3. They weren't fun, but you only had to get the dots. To complete them in this, you have to get the dots and all the rings that appear. So you have to encircle a border of the red dots, and then they all poof into rings, and you have to get all those rings. As you're doing that, you're speeding up, so it gets harder. And there's points where you can just if you don't know the layout of the bonus stage you're on, you can lock yourself out of getting all the rings. So you get all the dots because you're following the natural path, but you fucked yourself because you blocked off your only path. So now you can't complete the actual bonus stage. And then it gives you a silver coin to be hey, you fucked up. And so it's just this weird game where it's I like the way the actual game feels. It feels like a pretty solid, and it feels like another Sonic game. After years and years of people saying why does this Sonic game feel like shit? It's hey, they made one how you remember these games actually being. But at those bonus stages, I'm just that's just all fucking, that's really mean.
And I never thought
they
of that
really
part
fucking
of it.
hate the player.
Yeah, because for me, I couldn't care less. I'm not it's oh, I can't do the bonus. I don't fuck, and that's not my I want to do this. But
Well, I mean, from what if they followed the Sonic 3 and Knuckles framework for the bonus stages, like the Chaos Emerald ones, there's multiples of those every level, like those giant rings. You just have to know where to explore. But the fact that it locks you out for fucking up and like it's not even like a ring requirement where it's like get 50 rings and you can try again. It's like, no, you're fucked. You fucked up. that ring disappears because you're an asshole. You trying to play our game. Yeah. So I thought that was really like, I wasn't even really that mad about it, but I was just like, holy shit. Like, why would you do that to you? Like, haven't Sonic fans suffered enough? Like, can't you just let them can't you have like one modern like olive branch you could dangle for them where
they will, they'll offer the Chaos Emeralds as microtransactions.
There you go. $1 a Chaos Emerald, or you can get all the Chaos Emeralds for $5.
So
I should be in business.
Yeah,
I got great ideas. So I played a little bit of that. Last week, I've only really played like PUBG. I did get one of these things yesterday. Nice, shiny, new 2DS XL. Ooh.
Fancy said play your Dragon Quest 8 on.
Yep. That was the plan. And my my Metroid whenever that shows up.
Yeah, that's tomorrow, right?
It comes out tomorrow. I don't know when my copy will be here. It's one of those things where like my brother is like, yeah, I got it for you. And it should have like been a release day shipping thing, but now they're saying it won't be here for another week. So it's like, am I getting it from China? China Metroid? That'd be okay.
It's the black market. It's Mantroid. It's like...
Motroid. But yeah, so I was like playing with this yesterday, just getting it set up and stuff. And like, I don't know if it's coming through very well. The head of this thing is very wobbly.
Yeah, I can.
Like, can you get it?
Yeah.
I can do it for 30 more minutes if you're not sure.
It is pretty mesmerizing. Mine's kind of like that, I think, but
yeah, like it feels good and all that stuff. But even like when people told me how wobbly the top of it was, like I'm still a little surprised. I know why they designed them that way, like because people kept fucking breaking their systems, probably. So they wanted them to have a little leeway, but I thought it is something you kind of have to get used to. But I like the feel of it. I fucking hate setting up Nintendo systems.
Mm-hmm.
It's like way worse than any other fucking console out there because you don't just like have a Nintendo account. I learned yesterday. You like because I have the profile I made on my Wii U. I didn't have a 3DS before this, so I didn't have anything like connected. It was just on my Wii U. And then I had like a Nintendo account on their website. And I thought those were the same thing. Apparently not. Even though those two accounts are linked, they're different things in Nintendo's mind. So I would put in all my information, which is the same information for the like actual system account and the PC account, like their website, but the passwords were different. And like I only had like the password remembered for what I thought was the one account. So there, like I had to like go through every password I've ever made in my life, basically, because there's no like, hey, forgot your password. Like it's like, hey, if you can't find your account, you're fucked. We can't put your account on this 2DS. It's like you fuckers.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's we don't really need to go into a big discussion on how bad Nintendo is with their like online functionality, but they're bad.
But yeah, it's just I'm always reminded every time I get a new Nintendo system. Like this probably put me off buying a Switch for another fucking year. Not that they had to do that, considering we probably won't find one for
it's so hit and miss. Like I swear they're in
I know
stores
people
here.
keep finding them out in the wild,
I
but
think
it's
our
like I
stores
don't go
have 'em.
out to stores.
And I saw somebody on. Well, yeah, that makes it more difficult. I saw somebody on Twitter like last week talk about they were at a store and they had a whole display of them. Not like, oh, we happen to still have one, but like there was a bunch. So,
Yeah.
but then there's other places where store, and of course, like you said, online, good fucking luck. Those are just gone.
They're $400. You can get them, but you're paying $400. And it was funny. They did a Nintendo Direct yesterday, and they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna have a Mario Odyssey bundle." And it's like, okay, that'll be around for like 20 minutes. Like, and then like people will buy fucking 30,000 of them and try to resell them.
Yeah, Nintendo is like eBay users' best friend.
Yeah,
it's funny because a lot of people have a lot of very strong opinions and emotions towards that, and I just kind of sit back and laugh. Like, it does suck. Like, if I was trying to buy a Switch online right now, I'd probably be more upset. But most of the time, they're either products that I don't want, or I'm not in a position to buy them at that point anyway. So when you don't have an interest in it, it's easier to sit back and just kind of laugh about the thing. But
yeah, I mean, you have to remember you're talking about fucking toys here. It's not the end of the world if you can't buy one, but I still find that shit obnoxious. It's like, and I would say to people, like, you know, regardless of how important you think it is to get like a Switch or something, do not buy like those like incredibly marked up fucking consoles. It's like, it is really not worth it, and those people should fucking be in the hole.
Yeah, and that's why I've said for a long time I wish Nintendo would do something like with the SNES. I always call them minis, but I guess they're classics or whatever, the little fucking retro systems. And they keep like, oh, we're releasing this, 50 of them, good fucking luck, ha 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 ha. Yeah. Well, I think they should do that and let all these like resellers buy like a shitload of them, and then all of a sudden be like, yeah, just kidding, we have like 20 million of them here to ship out too. That way you stick all the resellers. Like, I would do that just to fuck with them. But that's what I mean. I'm in a position on this where I don't really care one way or the other. I'd just be screwing with people. So it doesn't make me any better than the resellers. It's just I'd go the opposite way with it.
Well, Nintendo has tried to relieve people's anxieties about the SNES Classic thing.
They've tried to, but then I keep seeing things about like, oh, this retailer has canceled a bunch of their pre-orders. This retailer has canceled a bunch of their... It's like, well, yeah. I mean, they just can't fucking get in front of demand. Like, they can't win. Like, either people don't want their fucking dumb system, or everybody wants their dumb system and they don't know how to make enough. I just think they're just playing it safe. Like we talked about, they don't want to overproduce because that's wasting money. Because it's more than just the cost of production, the cost of shipping, the cost of storage, which when you're talking units and stuff. So I think that's why they're doing it. But you would think after the first like 8 times, then they'd say we're safe to bump it up a little bit. But you got to admit, and on the same token, part of the reason people rush to buy these things is 100% because of how hard it is to get them. So if they made them easier to get, would they still like have that demand? It's a weird, it's consumer.
No, because they like, you think about what you just said, like they would be able to get one, therefore pay Nintendo for them. So you wouldn't have the demand for them because people already paid you for your console. Like, that's where
that would be the thing to do, is to take like pre-manufactured pre-orders, like, okay, how many people want this system? Cool, we'll make like this much plus.
If they had like the infrastructure to be like, okay, well, we don't have any more going out to like, we don't have any more in stores right now or on online shops, but you can place an order like through the Nintendo website or something, and it would be like, all right, and then the next wave, we send them to you or some shit. I mean, I know they don't have the actual capability to do that, but you would think like that would be the approach. If you are going to do a limited release, just be like, give people a direct option. It might be one of those things where it's like, it's Nintendo. So it's like you're not getting any sort of fucking discount by doing it. Maybe you pay a little bit more, but it would be like a way to like guarantee sort of a place in line or something.
Or what would solve all of it is going to Kickstarter with this, so that people could buy the system before you even make it. Be like,
but then that system will be a piece of shit, just as a rule.
So
yeah, I don't know. I want to Switch, but I'm always exhausted by Nintendo's efforts to like get systems out in a way that like regular people can get them. I say that, but I guess I'm not a regular person because I just don't like to go to stores to buy things. So for regular for me means like, why isn't it online?
Right.
How do you not have your own store where I can like place a fucking Switch order? And you can just tell me like, hey, we won't have it for 2 months, get on the line. And like, I'd be okay with that. I bet there's a lot of people that are like would be saying to themselves, "Fuck no, just go to Best Buy, you idiot." But it's like, no,
make
fuck
more
Best
of
Buy.
them. So
yeah,
PUBG, you've been playing a lot of PUBG. He said
a little bit. It's fucking breaking my computer now, so I'm trying to figure out what's up with that. And it's not like crashing in the game or whatever. It'll just be like, all right, well, we played a few hours. I'm done for now. I turn it off and then my computer reboots. And
that's like I said, last few times I've tried, the games run like shit and I'm like, okay, I can't get it, but it's like still moving. It's like, okay, I'm still getting like a frame every minute, and so it's like, okay, I'll exit the game, and it's exiting the game that kills my computer. And it's like, and you can't even at that point like just Control Alt Delete, task manager, kill task, whatever. It just, it's, I think it's a vengeful thing that they put in there. It's like, you fuckers want to get away from our game? Take this.
Well, I don't know if like I'm trying, it seems like an overheating issue, but I don't know why that would be, because like my cooling system is not like, it's not a stock one.
Well,
so
I would think
it's pretty good.
That it wouldn't be like, oh, when you're done and you're closing the game. I'd think it would just be at some random point after you've played for a while, like,
yeah,
it would shut down, or you'd get a warning like, hey, this is getting,
most systems are next. I don't know. So. Like the game runs okay when I'm playing it. It's just that issue, and it's kind of annoying. But
yeah, because that means like if you're gonna play for a while, that like I have to not want to do anything afterwards. Cause
yeah, well, I jerked around with the settings, and I'm wondering if that did it. Like something about like somehow lowering settings made it worse, but I don't know. I still play it here and there. They just released an update to allow really foggy weather, which sounds very fucking scary and fun. So I'll keep, poking away at it, seeing if, I can figure out what has gone wrong with it lately, but it's not make or break really. Like if my computer reboots after fucking playing it, then I can live with that. But I don't know. It did get me down the rabbit hole of looking into like what I actually need to like upgrade on my computer, because I am starting to get close to that point where it's like I actually have to think about like, well, shit, it might be time for a new motherboard, and like that stuff isn't fun, because you put all this money into one computer and then you realize like all these parts are gonna have to go away. So yeah. That's about all I've played. Now it's kind of like, take your pick and please don't buy Cities Skylines. I have so much to play. Even before my fucking birthday, I had so much I could play, and I'm just so bad with money. It's sad.
Money and time.
Yeah.
I finally finished Hellblade. So
there you go. You did it.
That's something.
You beat a game.
Yep. A 4-hour game that most people can beat in one sitting, but
yeah,
I got it.
Seriously, you talked about that game for like a month.
Mm-hmm. It is a great game too. It's got one of those endings that, well, I think there's two. Like, I think you can get a good ending, and I'm pretty sure I know how, but I don't, spoilers, whatever. Um, or the regular ending, and I got the regular ending, and it's one of those that either I was too tired or I just really. I was watching the Ohio State game, and that was not a good game. I know you're not a college football guy. So I was a little split attention at the time. I'm like, I just want to finish this. But I didn't really understand the ending. So that was kind of a little like, oh, I don't know if they're trying to be too smart or if I'm just like, because I was distracted or what. But
I would appreciate them trying to be too smart with an ending after how fucking dumb the DMC ending was. I've yelled about it before on the show, but one of the worst fucking endings to any game I've ever played.
Yeah. And the game itself is strong up through the end too, like the actual gameplay and the experience and everything. It's great. So
was DMC.
Yeah. Well.
So I'm not. I mean that actually complimentary. I'm being snarky, but like they know how to make a good, like, mechanically a good game. It's just whether or not their style is a hit, right? Depending on what their subject matter is.
Yeah, and we talked about I won't get back into it with the Hellblade, and it was a subject matter that I think a lot of us were like caught completely off guard because it's kind of a serious, like, dark issue that they're tackling, and they do it very well. But so I finished that. I also, because I'm an idiot, picked up. I think we talked about this a little bit last week. I don't know. We were having so many technical difficulties last week. I completely I couldn't even put the show up on YouTube because it was.
I can't even tell you the name of our show anymore.
Well, the show itself was split into like 13 different 10-minute video segments because I guess the stream must have been dropping in and out. But I bought Stranger of Sword City, which is a first-person dungeon crawler, like very Japanese.
I think we talked about that one.
Yeah. And I don't know why I bought that. Like, I really shouldn't have. And I've tried playing that a little bit since. And by tried, I mean, like, you get into it and it's very like your Japanese visual style game where you go through a little beginning tutorial and there's some fights and stuff and you meet a character. And then you spend the next 3.5 fucking hours reading dialogue. Like, oh, well, now you're a stranger and strangers come to this land to do this. Now go over here and talk to this person. And before you don't even push something, like somebody else just pops up like, oh, are you talking about this? Well, there's this and that. And I literally spent like a half hour to an hour just like reading dialogue, and none of it's voiced because it's not, it's not like a big budget game. So I've technically played that, but then there was somebody on Twitter talking about Wasteland 2. And like he's somebody that plays lots of games, especially those like Divinity and Pillars of Eternity and the top-down like RPGs. And he was talking about Wasteland 2, but just like reading the tweets, I'm like, this game sounds kind of cool. And so on a whim, I bought it. Wasteland 2 is fucking fantastic. Like, it's a game that I remember a bunch of people being excited when it got kickstarted, and because they were fans of the original Wasteland, which, if you're not familiar, is like the old game that really inspired the whole Fallout universe. And that's, I think, why I kind of ignored it when Wasteland 2 came out, because I had played the newer-ish top-down Fallouts, not the Fallout 4 and 3, but like the turn-based, like XCOM-y strategy RPG Fallouts. And it was like okay, but I never got into it. Wasteland 2 is just fantastic. I'm really enjoying it so far. And it's got like all that kind of like humor of the Fallout universe, and like that whole setting, of course, you're in a wasteland, but it also gives you like those difficult, like, oh, these two different towns are both under duress and you're technically the law in the area, although more and more people aren't like recognizing the Rangers, the Desert Rangers, as like the law. And that's part of it, is you're trying to be like, no, look, we're the good guys, or at least you think you are at this point. I'm already getting hints like, you know how Fallout tends to go. And I keep saying Fallout, they're different things, but they're very much, similar. But then there'll be like two towns and you have to pick which one to respond to. But if that'll screw the other town, and there'll be story repercussions and like big, like far reaching ones, not just like, oh, I got a different dialogue box. So it's got that. And then it's got the whole like XCOM-y bullshit where it's like, oh, this person, when you get into combat, it's turn-based and it's exactly like XCOM, move here and shoot and use action points. And it's like, oh, you have a 98% chance to hit this person. Fucker, you missed. Like, you're like pulling your hair out with that stuff, and it's just a lot of fun. So I could.
There's only one universe where you miss this shot, and you're in it.
Yeah. So I couldn't more highly recommend it. It came out in like 2015, I think. Yeah, it's got to be about 2.5, 3 years old. Now Wasteland 3 is one that I saw at some point this year. It had got kickstarted, or just maybe they might be funding it themselves, and it was just announced. It's not supposed to come out until I think next year, or even 2019 maybe. But if it's ever on sale and you like those kind of games, I couldn't recommend it more. I describe it as a cross between like kind of the RPG and like the humor and writing elements of a game like Divinity Original Sin, but the world of Fallout. So that's what I've been playing mostly, is Wasteland 2.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of praise for Wasteland, but I never investigated it really.
That was my boat, because see, on the internet you hear praise for shit like Twin Peaks and Rick and Morty.
And my default is to just tell people they're wrong, even if I don't know.
Well, because 9 times out of 10 I'm like, oh, everybody's raving about this show, and I go and watch it, and it's like, this is fucking garbage. And same with video games a lot of the time. But this one's one they were right about, so.
Good on you, Internet. You're 1 for 10.
And then speaking of games that are Divinity, like Divinity Original Sin 2 came out today. That's going to be one that'll be so hard for me to ignore, especially if it goes on like a sale anytime soon. I don't know. Have you ever really gotten into any of those like top-down turn-based RPGs like Baldur's Gate or?
Not at all.
See.
That's you can tell from this show because you'll talk about them, and I kind of zone out.
Yeah. Divinity is really cool because it's like those games, but it's got a real good sense of humor. But they also have some like really complex system, like not as far as micromanaging, but like just things as far as like. It's one of those games where a lot of times you're playing a game and you have to address a situation a certain way, and it's very apparent how they want you to address it. And you're like, oh, but I wish I could do this. And Divinity, at least the first one, was one of those games where almost every time you're like, man, I wish I could just do this. You could. Like, there's contingencies for everything, and it was really cool in that respect. And I really like the writing because it's on the humor side more than the serious side more often than not. And it was just really good. So, but the second one came out today, and I imagine it's really good, but they're not short games, so I don't know when I'll ever have time to play it.
Yeah.
Which means I'll buy it like 3 days before Destiny 2 comes out, because that's the... Yeah.
Yeah, that is how this works. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else is out. Cuphead is out at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm. That might be a fun one to stream, because like... I'm going to suck at it. And
you think so? How can you have a podcast and suck at games? Like, it's really easy.
Yes, so easy. That's why we have a podcast, right?
Yeah.
If we were good at games, we'd be much higher up on the food chain.
If we were good at games, we wouldn't think so much about games because we're not playing them all the time. We just beat them and move on with life. Yeah, honestly, a lot of my, like, what I want to play this year, like, it's more like we got a few things out in September and October, but then like kind of after that it's all like shit I missed over the course of the year. Like, I still want to play Pyre.
I haven't played Horizon Zero Dawn yet. That's on my list.
I want to play that Crash Bandicoot trilogy, but I keep hearing rumors that might come to PC and Xbox in December, and if it does, I'll just get it on that because it's more convenient.
I need to play Zelda, but that's not coming to PC anytime soon,
unfortunately. I want to play Mario Odyssey, but then I'll have to actually find a fucking Switch to do that.
But then if you do that, then that puts Mario and Rabbids on the table, and I feel like there was something else.
that kind of the affection I had for that reveal is kind of worn off a little bit. Not to say I wouldn't play it, but it's not so high up on my list as it was back in like E3, where I was like, holy shit, it's Mario XCOM. Mostly because its reception has been kind of like, yeah, it's unique, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's kind of a dumbed down XCOM, so.
I don't know. I've been hearing nothing, I've been hearing nothing but good things.
I've heard, I like, it hasn't been like negative. It's just been kind of like, yeah, it's fun. You know what you're kind of getting. It's not really a Mario game, like in tone necessarily. So it like, it's this weird kind of brand merging that, like, it's not quite a Mario game and it's not quite a Rabbids game, is what I've been kind of hearing. And that's what makes it kind of weird. And then like the gameplay is relatively simplistic, which isn't a bad thing. It's just, it's not like there's more urgent shit on my list. Like, and fucking Nintendo games are always really expensive. Like that's the shit that's never on sale. So like I have to, prioritize a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of going through the list of upcoming releases, and there's not. I keep feeling like there's one, like, big AAA game that I keep forgetting about. That every time I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, but looking through the list, I don't see. I mean, there's stuff like Middle Earth, Shadow of War. I don't think I'm gonna be playing that.
Not unless I hear some really like, this game is like they fucking improved everything. Like, which wasn't to say like Shadow of Mordor was bad. It just kind of was. Like it's not.
It was boring. Like it was really cool, and then it was really boring, like repetitive.
Well, it was a game with like one cool gameplay idea with the Nemesis system, and then the rest of that game was completely made up of other games I've played before.
Right.
It had Batman, it had Assassin's Creed, and it just didn't. For being a Lord of the Rings game, it just felt like a game without like a unique identity.
Right.
So it's like, it's not even like this, like I enjoyed my time with the game, but I remember that was one of the last games I can remember buying a used copy for and being really grateful that I did, because it was like, it saved me a lot of money. And it was like, all right, that game was worth that amount of money to me.
You know what? I feel like I rented. I think I Redboxed it or something, or maybe GameFly.
Yeah,
and it's that kind of game.
Yeah.
Evil Within 2 comes out. I haven't played the first one, and I've been honest, between the two, I think I'd rather play the first one, which goes on sale for like $4 every other week.
I would give anything to watch you do an Evil Within stream in October.
It's a possibility. It's yeah.
Because that game is so fucking frustrating.
I know, that's the thing that keeps me. I watched. I think you streamed some, and I watched some other people stream it when it was like first out, and it was just one of those things. Every time I'd watch, I was like, I don't think I'd like that.
Like, to hear you bitch about Mega Man and stuff on this show, like I would give anything to like to see you play a game that is genuinely unfair a lot of the time. I like the Evil Within just because it's weird, but it's rough as shit, and the sequel does not inspire a lot of hope in me that it will be more polished. But I'll probably play it because it's weird, and like I have this bizarre affection for like this weird, punishing, stupid, like a horror, like a game designed like a horror game, but not fucking scary at all. It's really it's such a weird brand, and I'm amazed and a little grateful that they get to make another one.
It is one that I was kind of shocked that it almost gave me the impression that they were already working on 2 before 1 came out, and then you're just like, fuck. Well,
Yeah, well, it's one of those games that like ends on kind of a like not a total cliffhanger, but it's like, oh, this story could keep going. And I remember beating it and being like, they'll never fucking be able to make another one of these. And then just a couple of years later, we see fucking Sebastian Castellanos bathing in milk or whatever the fuck the theme of this next game is, because he's just covered in white shit.
To be honest, a milk bath like is a horror. Sounds like a horror premise to me. Like that just seems like I don't. People like consider it a decadent thing. And I'm like, that sounds awful.
Yeah, milk bath. That's all the game is. It's just you being pampered in very weird ways. There's Call of Duty World War II, which, like, for someone like me who is like, any love I have for Call of Duty started and really revolves around how much I liked Call of Duty 2. And so to go back to like a World War II Call of Duty game sounds appealing, but I watched so much like footage from like the last beta they did that I'm just like, that just looks like everything they've kind of like all the mechanics of like more modern Call of Duty games. And then they made the guns worse.
Right. Like
so it's like this kind of fucked up, like, because Call of Duty 2, you were really limited. And I understand like you can't do that to like players anymore.
Well, not like, that group, but yeah, I mean, some of my affections, it's funny when if you listen to our show and you hear us talk, we're usually pretty rough on the shooters, especially the military shooters in general. Although we both, I think, have this where it's like, we don't actually hate them that much. It's just not our jam. But there was a time when that's like all I played. And I go back to like the, not Call of Duty, but Medal of Honor, the old ones of the, and like back when they were Counter-Strike mods and stuff, and some of those, like D-Day, I think was one. I'd have to open up Steam, and I don't want to do that right now. But they were very slow paced, like your gunshot, one shot, and
it was a really methodical. Every shot had to count. Mm-hmm. You couldn't run out into the open because somebody would just fucking take your scalp off.
Right.
It was a really tense. So like it's weird to explain to people who never played Call of Duty 2 that like, no, this shit wasn't like the reason Modern Warfare was so amazing was how much they sped everything up.
Right.
Like the guns were faster, the characters were faster. You could dive and slide and shit.
Yeah, I mean they like Counter-Striked it.
In Call of Duty 2, you didn't even have a sprint. Like you just ran, like, and that was your speed. Eventually they added the sprint stuff, and you realize how much you need that shit. But like you just showed, like the rhythm to that game was not so fast paced to what Call of Duty is now, and I don't know if that setting and that arsenal complement like what their gameplay is now.
Well, and it's one of those things, like the more I see of Call of Duty World War II, the more tempted I am to pick up Battlefield 1, which is probably not what EA wants. Or not EA. That's Activision. Exactly what EA wants.
Yeah, EA is like, seriously?
But
we're gonna throw that away.
And then it's like, yeah, there's been a few times in the last like month or two that I've like seen screenshots or video of Battlefield 1. I'm like, man, I could go for that right now. And it's like, but that's hidden behind the Origin wall on PC. Fuck you. Like, I refuse to install Origin. And at this point, it's more me being stubborn than like any like one specific like concern about Origin. It's mostly
if they make Skate 4, I'll download Origin tonight.
One day they will release something that I have to like, that I'll, because it's not like a pick it, this and that. It's just I don't like EA, so I don't particularly want their account, which is
right. For me, it's just clutter. I just don't want to add more shit if I don't have to, and there's nothing I need to play from EA.
Particularly thrilled about having a Blizzard launcher, for instance, which is why on the flip side, I was very thrilled when they teamed up with Bungie so that Destiny would be through that, so I don't need a fucking third like launcher system.
At the Activision fucking game launcher that just sits and stews for one game on your computer.
Right. So that's all that is. But and this falls under the EA thing too. The Star Wars Battlefront 2 comes out this year in November. And again, it's like that looks kind of neat, but probably not enough to get me into it.
I played the first Battlefront at a friend's house for like we played for like an hour maybe. Like it played really well and it looked good. There's just like there was no like meat on it beyond that one night. Like I know my friend who owned it played a little bit more, obviously, but like it didn't stick with him that long either because it was just like they did not put enough with it.
Yeah, it didn't help. It launched with like 3 maps, and
yeah, and like it was like trying to do like that games as a service thing, but it was a full fucking price game. Like it wasn't an Overwatch where it's like, well, there's a full price version, but you can get it for 40. You know, it was, and I know a lot of console players is like, you could get it for 40. It's like, yeah. That's how that game's meant to be bought. But yeah, like it had a content problem, and now it's kind of at a point where it's like, well, maybe you'll fix that content problem, but will people want to play your game?
Well, and that's the problem
at that point. Like you don't get like a second chance at a first impression.
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But what makes it tough, and we've talked about this before, when your game is dependent on the multiplayer. MMOs have this problem all the time. In fact, I was just thinking about a couple today. If you don't get the community and get it right away, you're fucked. Because without a community, the people that do want to play your game, it's not fun because there's nobody there. And that doesn't tend to get better with time. It gets worse with time. It gets better with time if you start out strong. Look at PUBG. But yeah, I mean, it's very, very dependent on the community and having a player base. And
yeah, I mean, you know, going back to Destiny, like Destiny 1, like had so much hype behind it that, you know, people picked it up, like, you know, off pre-orders and shit in mass, but they all kind of fell off when it was all like, you know, when people were like, this is actually kind of just a lukewarm FPS. And they kind of, even for, you know, a juggernaut like that, they kind of had to scratch and claw to sort of get the momentum back to their user base with those DLCs.
I was going to say they managed to do a good job with Taken King of reselling the game as like we know we fucked up, and that was a good step, admitting that like
we made a complete version of the game you already bought. But it worked. You know, they got, you know, the crowd back behind them, and that's what you need to do when you're a multiplayer based game. And, you know, now you see with Destiny 2, like, even though the reviews are still kind of like, you know, it's fun. Like, when reviews are saying that, but, like, there's just so much momentum behind it, you know, that people are just like, yeah, you know, it's a fun game. And and more importantly, everybody's playing it. Everybody I know is playing it. All my friends are playing it. So I'm playing it. Like, you have to have a little bit of that at your launch. Otherwise, it's just so tough to, like, you know, think about, like, Titanfall 2, like, how fucked they got by the fact that, like, when they came out and the fact that, like, you know, it wasn't really, like, a multiplayer-driven thing, but that was the business model behind it.
Right.
It's like, you know, how we're going to keep this game alive is through, you know, new maps and modes and shit. You know, so they made this awesome game. I love Titanfall 2, but like people played the campaign and then they fucking ran off. And like, and they still, when I see headlines, I was like, hey, a new Titanfall 2 thing. It's like, man, fuck. Like, you guys just move on. Like, you know, I know there's probably some hardcore Titanfall 2 players who are like, you know, it's really good. But to me, it's just like, it didn't have that momentum when I played it. So,
it's all about momentum. Ask Sonic. Sonic fans will agree.
You gotta go fast.
Yes, you do. So yeah, scrolling through there, I didn't really notice that never mind, I'm stupid.
You didn't notice
I closed my tab, so I didn't notice the Call of Duty World War II and Star Wars Battlefront launched within like a week and a half or 2 weeks of each other, and that's
Jesus fuck. I like, isn't there? Can we stop? Can we just stop?
Well, I mean, it's
Fucking
this
with this like
EA and Activision,
Activision
like, wow, we're gonna
cluster
get you.
fucking November.
Yeah.
I'll buy fucking Assassin's Creed out of spite.
Well, the
Like,
funny
just-
thing is, it's like they do it on purpose because they are directly trying to poach each other's player bases. And it's like, if you'd offset it, you'd both like share the player. You could share the same player bases. Like,
Yeah. You space it out, you might actually learn from each other.
right. But they do it out of spite, and I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, it's this weird, like, how much money would they both make? I wonder if they could, like, split their schedule.
Right.
And then everybody bought, like, both their games. Now it's always, for most people, it's always like, well, I'll take that one, or I'll take the other one. But
that's how they want it, because that in their minds, they can be the one that everybody takes. It's like, well, but you could both get them all every time. Like,
but I'm just thinking about it. Like, I probably wouldn't. I'd probably buy them at the pace I do now, which is like I buy, one of those types of shooters like once every 4 or 5 years, probably at this point. But I'd be more likely probably to buy a Battlefield and a Call of Duty in the same year if they didn't come out at the same time.
right.
But they got to do
Yeah, and they're looking at, they still wouldn't want to split it because they're not looking at just initial sales, but also being able to keep people buying the DLC and shit as it comes out and whatever.
Yeah,
but
I'm so like, I can't remember the last DLC I bought. Like, especially after like something like Shovel Knight, where it's like, oh, you gave all this shit away for free. Okay, well, this is better than most DLC I've played in other games, and you just gave it away. So I don't know why they did that, but it was super generous of them, and it made every other fucking developer look bad.
yeah, that's why they did it. They're like, we're gonna lose our homes,
Yeah,
but ha ha ha.
Make the fucking best games. But yeah, that's the only other releases, Assassin's Creed, that I'm kind of like interested in. And it's really dependent on how,
like,
I do, but if they actually made it different, and
it's a cool setting. That's what they're so fucking good at. Like, I'm so sick of these damn games. They suck and they're all the same. And then they're like, oh yeah, well, what if it's the same damn game in Egypt? You're like, oh, you've got my attention.
But that's not why it's interesting to me, because like I've already gotten to the point where it's like I can tune out the setting. Like I got over that.
I won't
when
buy
they
it
did the
based
French
on that.
Revolution.
Yeah,
and
it
ended up sucking. But this one seems like they're doing a few noticeably different things with the gameplay, and I'm curious about that. Now, I'm not sold on it. I don't fucking trust Ubisoft at all with anything ever. But if they did actually like take that year off and like really revamp like what an Assassin's Creed game is, that can almost only lead to a better game and maybe a better series. Because I hated that formula by the time I was like, not even by the time they released the last game, but like before when I was done with it, which was after Black Flag, whereas like Black Flag was great. It's the last time I wanted to play a game like that.
Well, and great is such a misleading word. Black Flag really sucked mostly, but had enough great things.
Well, Black Flag was great because they had one really great idea that was not Assassin's Creed. Like there's a great game in Black Flag that should just be called Black Flag.
Right.
And then like the Assassin's Creed part was bullshit.
Right. That just reminded me though, we were at a small brewery for dinner last week with my parents, and of course they had a band playing out front on the porch, and they were kind of like a folky rock, not like the real hippie folk stuff that I've seen sometimes at those that are like, ugh. But they had kind of that Simon and Garfunkel like sound, whatever. But then all of a sudden we're sitting there eating, and I like turn around, they're fucking like singing Drunken Sailor, and it was like the greatest thing in the world to me. Like I wanted to just start like swinging my beer back and forth and go like.
I'd probably want that playing at my wedding.
It's
Like,
great. Just sea shanties in general. Like,
I'm sure my wife would not be okay with it, wherever she may be, but that's what's happening.
you need a winch.
A wench, yeah, that's. So that would be great though. Just like in her mind, she's already got like the music picked out, and it's like, oh, I fired them and brought these guys. hey, and up, she all right? It's like
Just like the pirate band from the SpongeBob movie, but doing actual pirate songs.
A pirate themed wedding.
Yeah.
That would suck. That actually would be really tacky and dumb.
It would.
But
in fact, like when we got married, we had to hire a officiant or whatever you call him, the pastor basically, because we didn't do it at a church. And that was one of the things he was very clear about. He's like, I do not do themed weddings. He's like, these are supposed to be serious, like have meaning occasions. And if it's going to have any kind of weird, tacky theme, you're going to have to find somebody else. And of course we didn't. I mean, the tackiest part was Tara marrying me. But,
well, here's the theme. We got a pastor with a fucking broomstick shoved so far up his ass. Like,
that's the funny thing is he was really cool and laid back, but he just, his point was he's like
the most like I admit the pirate idea is dumb, but fucking weddings are dumb. Like they're one of the silliest cartoonish things people engage in on a regular basis. It's like you gotta fucking be able to laugh at them somehow.
I think that was his point, though. Is like they maybe shouldn't be because there are so many people that just get married to like.
Well,
have a party.
We'll do a very sterile wedding, and when somebody gets too drunk and makes a fucking ass of himself, it'll be a horrible thing because they ruined our series. Instead of being hilarious like it should be, like when people fuck up your wedding, which will happen. It's like that is how weddings are supposed to be. You got to remember them. Like, hey, you remember when he fucked up and like ate the cake before we? Could cut it?
There's still plenty of that open bar and all that good stuff. Of course, ours was at an art museum, so you had to really. Yeah.
So really, what's the problem if I do it in a pirate hat? We just found another excuse to give each other presents and get sloshed.
Gosh, now, God, you have to do if you get married a pirate theme. That way, when the bride, they always like walk down the aisle and it's supposed to be a surprise for their groom, like you haven't seen her that day until she like steps into the aisle, and then you could yell out "Thar she blows," like really loud. She can leave,
and I sit there like an asshole. No, I'd make sure I had a really big hat so that we couldn't do like the kiss, because it's just like I keep fucking hitting her with it.
You may kiss the bride, ye may walk the plank. You could rob the pastor like at the end.
That would be fucking great. Yeah. Could you give me the name of the guy who did yours? I would not tell him that it's a theme wedding until I robbed his ass. A fucking musket point.
Musket, yeah. Blunderbuss, just because I like that word. Even though the muskets are way cooler, but yeah, the flintlocks. But
that would be fucking great. I don't have marriage plans in my future, but if I did,
Matlock Flintlock wedding. Yeah, I like it.
The Matlock Flintlock wedding.
There's not even a bride. You're just putting this on so you can dress up like a pirate.
Yeah. Like the bride comes down and like flips her fucking gown thing over, and then like the veil, and it's just another pirate, and he's.
That's when you rob him. Yeah, I mean it's perfect. It's all falling into place.
Yeah,
you don't need a wedding planner. You need a heist planner.
And then the pastor's like, there are like more efficient ways to rob me than like setting up an entire wedding.
Now I'm picturing the whole crowd jumping off and like throwing off their coats and them being pirates too. Like, yeah, he's the only one that's like.
He's the only one we're pillaging.
Right, you make off with like $20. I like it.
Yeah, not a bad idea. No. Certainly executable.
They never catch you either.
They wouldn't look for me.
They'd be like, was his last name Matlock or Flintlock? We don't know. Well, I give up.
Well, he's at sea now, so.
Yo ho and up the tree, right?
Oh, I hope a storm sends his ass to the depths.
I didn't think about that. That's the first thing I needed to do when I bought that raft, and like when I was doing like mods to it, is I need a speaker system so it can just blare sea shanties the whole fucking time. Like, it would completely kill the point, because I got it because I like to fish, and typically part of being successful at fishing is not being super loud. But
Yeah.
whatever, sea shanty. I assume fish like those too.
You should have your own flag.
Yeah.
Colors. You gotta fly colors.
Yeah, I have to think of like
what would your flag be? What would the
that's what I was
icon
trying to think. I think it would be a skull, but the skull, like the round part of the skull, would be a cheeseburger. Because
mine would be like it would be the crossbones, but with like the skull, it would have buck teeth, I think.
Like that Skype picture you had for a long time.
Yeah.
I like it.
The I'm buff bin. Yeah, that would work. I should do that. I should get a pirate ship.
Singing and that's the only one I can think off the top of my head, but I'll have to look up. There's got to be like a Spotify Black Flag playlist. Like, not the shitty, like, cinematic, actually pretty good music, but
the orchestral music that people worked very hard on, but just the
I know. I felt too bad even joking about like, oh, not that shitty orchestra, because the thing with Assassin's Creed is it's a very well produced game, even when like the faces don't load and stuff, I guess. But just don't like the gameplay.
There's a lot of talent behind those games. It's obvious. It's just the problem is all that talent is going towards one exposed to be really shitty system of games. Like, it's just not a fun game to play.
And I think a lot of that's driven, I'm speaking from an outsider just based on like what I know from developers I've seen talk to that have worked in that space in the industry. Is like, they had a successful game, and then because it's all pushed by like, you're in a big studio with big money behind it and big publishers, they very much don't want to experiment. So they're pushing these people to just put out the same thing. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. Which is why I think you see stuff like this Wasteland 2 game where it's like, oh, well, here's the original minds behind it, now not shackled by the publisher. Here's where they wanted to go with it. But
here's the actual next step they wanted to take it. Yeah, there's probably a lot of truth to that with Assassin's Creed.
And of course, the drawback is then you get a lot of this, like, here's the original minds, but they're not reined in, and that can backfire sometimes. Mighty
so now it's taking them 6 years to animate walking across a room.
And you also you're not going to get like, oh, here's this indie game with this like full orchestra like score, because you don't have the budget. So I mean, it goes both ways there. But yeah, I think that's why we haven't seen Assassin's Creed evolve more than we have.
I'm sure, like, because I remember, like, with the Tony Hawk series and stuff, like, they were pumping that game series out. Like, I don't know if it was annual back then, but it was on such a grind that, like, I remember listening to podcasts where guys were interviewing them, and it was like, yeah, we would have loved to have done more and tried different shit with those games. But we had such a strict deadline that it was like we knew we were making the same game over and over again for the most part, but we had to do it that way. That's the only way those games get released in that time frame.
Right. And that's the same complaint with Call of Duty, really. This is nothing new. It's not like we're the geniuses breaking the story, of course. But, yeah.
I mean, Call of Duty is a little bit different because they got different teams working on them now. And I guess Assassin's Creed does kind of. I don't know how they have that structured really, if they have different teams on the main series now, or if that's just for like spin-offs and stuff. But that was the hope, was that like, oh, well, now Call of Duty has like 3 different studios, so they actually get, like 2 or 3 years to make their next one,
right?
So they can introduce ideas. But that doesn't happen a lot. Like, even with that structure, it's like you're still kind of wrapped up in that framework And then you start to realize there's limitations in that.
I was gonna say, and you're still having to iterate the game engine with the other teams that are working on it, because there's still updates as far as that goes, and so it's better when they're doing the multi-team trade-off thing. I do like that compared to the Madden syndrome with EA Sports, where as soon as you ship one, it's like, well,
it's
we got
unapologetically the same,
right?
Like, yeah.
Oh, but they've added more jersey dots, like, you can see the mesh more. So.
Awesome. Hey, as a jersey aficionado,
right? That's what matters to you.
That's awesome. If they focused more on that, I would be okay with it. But like with Call of Duty and stuff, it kind of leads to these like sort of cheap, like, well, we gave you a jetpack now. It's like, all right, still plays like Call of Duty. I can hover in the air a little more. It's got to be really fucking tough to like work on those series and like try to keep it fresh. And
try to stay
I think we're seeing that now.
I mean, that'd be like me asking you to write a review of the same game 8 times. Like by the 8th time, you're a little.
But make it different. Right. But I think we're kind of seeing, like, I think WW2 will be a really, like, kind of a make or break point in that series, depending on how it does, where it's like, it's Call of Duty. We kind of always take it for granted that it'll sell well, but there has been kind of a decline from what I understand.
Yeah.
So it is kind of, because you're at that point now where it's like, all right, the way it's structured now, you've pretty much tried every idea in this framework except go back to where it started. Now you're going back to where it started. Will it actually be fun? Will this open new doors for you? Or will this just sort of expose how tired your formula has gotten?
We'll see. In fact, I just saw a Game Informer tweet that says the PC beta launches September 29th.
Oh, no.
2 weeks.
I remember the last Call of Duty PC beta I tried was a fucking train wreck.
Yeah.
I think that was Black Ops 3. And it just fucking played like garbage.
That's the best part of Black Ops, is that it's shortened to blops, and I like that word.
COD blops.
COD blops.
It sounds like a fish thing you would get at McDonald's.
Yes.
No,
that sounds like a fish thing that you would not order at McDonald's, but it would be on the menu.
You wouldn't order, but you could get it from them.
Right.
It would be like they're like smaller nuggets, and they're cod blops. They're disgusting.
There's red tide in it.
Fuck, I'm having so many visions of what that could be. Like I'm almost imagining they serve it in the same thing like a McFlurry's in.
I'm glad you went fish, because I hear cod blops and I think like the cod it's piece, but like it's the rash you get from wearing it too often.
Cod blops. Gross.
Right.
That's when it gets infected.
Infected, right. Oozing.
I got a wicked case of cod blops.
Oh man, now I wish I could say. I want to say that in a Boston accent. I've been watching. I don't know if you've watched it, but BoJack Horseman.
No, I haven't.
Never. It's one of those things we were talking about earlier, where like Twitter always talks about it, but they always talk about Twin Peaks. And last time I was like, okay, fine, I'll try Twin Peaks. It's fucking trash. It's garbage. I don't get it at all.
Fuck Twin Peaks.
And that's kind of what I always assumed BoJack was. But I started the next. I guess the latest season just came out on Netflix, so I didn't start there. Of course, I started in season 1, and it's actually really funny. I'm liking it a lot. But
yeah. I started watching The Tick, the new Amazon.
I've heard that's pretty. Well, I've heard like kind of split things on it, but a lot of people I've seen liked it.
It seems okay. It's watchable. It's not like it doesn't have me like hooked, but it's like, if I got like 20 minutes to kill, I'll throw on the next episode. And like I like what's his face? I can never pronounce his last name. Peter Serafinowicz or something like that. He's the guy who plays the Tick, like, and he's been in like Shaun of the Dead and like Space, so like those Edgar Wright stuff. with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and he's really good and kind of underused in a lot of stuff. So it's cool to see him just have like a starting role in something. But yeah, so that's all I've watched. That's been the TV update from Ben.
The Njoystic TV update.
TV update. Football's back. That's all I watch now.
I've been watching baseball, but that's because it's hard not to watch the Indians when you're an Indians fan and they're doing.
It's hard not
to
watch the good team when the bad team is so fucking bad.
Well, yeah, that too, yeah. But
I mean, the Browns looked better than they did last year.
Well, but that's what I thought that for a split second. I didn't get to watch the game because we were at a crew game, but it was funny because our friends that go to the games with us, he's a big Bengals fan because they live a lot closer to Cincinnati.
And they got fucking mollywopped.
Well, that's what's funny. He afterwards we were like talking and he pulled his phone out to check the score. And he's like, "Man, they're getting killed." I was like, "Oh, I'm sure the Browns are too." Like I didn't even bother looking. And then we got in the car and I turned it on the radio and it was like that last possession where if they would have stopped him on the pass that they had under review, it would have been 3rd and 12, like deep in whatever, and they would have got the ball back. But I heard the score and it's like, holy crap. And for a second I was like, well, they won all 4 of their preseason games, so it doesn't really mean shit. But then they like should have got killed by Pittsburgh and they were in there by like 3 points. And then I realized, nope, I'm an idiot. That's what they always fucking do. They make you feel like, oh, they're not that bad. You know, they're right on the verge. They could be okay.
They're finally breaking through.
And then they'll play like the Jets and get blown out or something. So,
yeah.
I mean, they're the Browns. But, and then like I said, on the flip side, if you're an Indians fan and they're making history, so that's a lot more fun to watch. Although they're losing right now, top of the 3rd, they're down 1-0. I just want him to.
You won't get the unbeaten streak.
I was going to say I want him to beat that because it'd be cool. It's your team, but I mostly want to beat it because a lot of people still quote that unbeaten streak as a winning streak, even though it's not. And that's bullshit.
No, that's bullshit. Yeah.
Right. That record needs to just be beaten so people can quit quoting that as the longest win streak because it's not a win streak if you had a tie.
Win streak is 21 games right now. Mm-hmm. If you win today, it's 22.
22 would officially, because we're tied with the Cubs for non-bullshit win streak.
Yeah,
so 22 would give us
the win streak.
But I just know
the other one is just not losing.
I was gonna say if we win any less than 26 in a row, I know people will still be like, well, but technically, and it's like fuck that.
Yeah.
So
they got that fucking record back when you could really tie.
Right.
Like it's almost impossible to tie in baseball.
I know there's a situation where it can happen. I think if it's like
rain out, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say if it's 7.5, is it 7.5 that makes it official, or it's just 7 inning, whatever. It's got to be a certain length, and then if it gets rain out and they can't make it up.
Yeah, I don't. There's so many, like, at this point, it's like there just shouldn't be ties in baseball.
No.
If you're going to make them play for 20 innings, make them play for 50. Like, if we're going to just go down that rabbit hole.
I've never seen them not, like, finish a game due to length. There was a couple games last year that went, like, 21, 22 innings. And I'm
sure the guys were a part of a few of them. Or at least it felt that way.
But, yeah.
But yeah, like it has to be a weather thing, which I think is also bullshit. Like play in the rain, fucking losers. Just my bat's wet. So what? Their bats are wet too.
Could twist an ankle.
Yeah, it's a fucking look at the football players. We throw them out on ice to make them play. We should have made them play during that hurricane.
Yeah, that was like bullshit.
Not one pass would be caught.
Well, the funny thing is, I bet you they'd probably played that game if it wasn't for the fans, and I get that. It's like you don't want.
Yeah,
but
I'm totally kidding. Everybody should have gotten the fuck out of Florida if they could.
Fortunately, that turned out to not be as bad as they were saying, but that's not to minimize the fact that there's been people that have died still, and it was still bad, just not as bad.
And it's better to be like wrong about the severity of a natural disaster in that way than to like be like, oh shit, we should have told more people to leave.
That's what I love. Like, there was the climate change deniers, and they're like, everybody's saying, oh, look at all these hurricanes, but the most deaths in a hurricane was in like 1890, and it's like, no shit, because they had no idea it was fucking coming. Like,
Yeah,
and their
it's
houses
just
were
like,
made out of
yeah.
sticks. Like,
Storm might be a comet, and then their fucking house blew away. Like,
right? There, it wasn't even a fucking house. It's like, oh, there goes the tent.
the shanty. Yeah.
Right. It's like, I don't know what point you think you're making, but
There's no point. The point is, I don't want to do anything.
right.
I don't want to fix it. I would have to give something up.
That's what my
That sounds
favorite
like-
quote on that was. Like, somebody's like, even if, you know, climate change isn't due to human, which it is, you know, they weren't saying like, oh, I'm on the fence, but they're like,
You're right.
the downside of following this and being wrong is that we live in a better, cleaner world. Like,
Yeah. And also, if we're not doing this, it's still happening. So,
well,
so maybe we should
I like the fact that
address
they
it
seem to
in
be-
ways we can.
like, they're like, all these bullshit rules that are just keeping us down. I mean, it's like, have you really literally forgotten that, like, not even that long ago, like 40 years ago, our rivers were fucking on fire. Like, our water was literally burning. And you're saying, like,
either climate change is real or like Brendan Fraser's The Mummy was based off true events. Like, you know, something's falling apart here.
so, but anyway, we're not a political podcast. We should be. I think we'd be we'd be a fun political podcast. But,
we would eventually hit something that we don't agree on, and it would ruin our friendship, though. Because I'm petty.
well, plus you get into that, like,
Like, if you thought arguing about Skyward Sword was fun,
yeah. Mega Man, if I actually had stronger opinions on it, would be fun, but that's mostly just to pick on
your opinion. Your opinions are invalid on Mega Man. Like, you can talk all the mess you want about him because I know where it's coming from. A trash pile. It is one of the best platformers ever made, and I'm glad it hurt your feelings.
Nope. I disagree.
On that note, we can end the show.
Yeah, I need to go watch my Indians hopefully not lose.
Yeah, I need to. No, I don't have
And eat.
anything to watch.
I need to eat.
but-
I'm fat and nothing has
Okay.
gone in my mouth for like 8 hours, so.
You need nourishment. So yeah, should have a show next week, next Thursday. We're doing these on Thursdays now, I guess.
Thursdays or Tuesdays, but I think Thursdays works
Yeah.
better.
But you can follow us on Twitter to know for sure. We always announce it day of, like any good host. Never hype it up beforehand. So at Phaser 3D for Steve, at BP Mallow for me, and we'll see you on the flippity flu.
Toodles.